Hey everyone, welcome back to another enriching episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, the podcast where we dive into the journeys, insights, and the tools that help us lead stronger, healthier, and more fulfilled lives. I'm your host Avik, and if you have ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or just wondered how to turn your struggles into personal growth, then you are in the right place today. So, we are about to get real on the topic of mental health with someone who knows it inside and out, not just from the books, but from experience in the field of in the field and the commitment to helping others transform their lives. So, joining me today is Philip Quinones. So, welcome to the show, Philip.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Lovely, lovely. So, Philip, like before we start, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Philip is a mental health professional with a bachelor's in psychology from Georgia State University and a master's in clinical counseling psychology from Brno University. And he has worked with individuals and the couples across a variety of challenges from relationship struggles to self esteem issues, and now runs his own coaching business focused on making healing and growth accessible to all. So, what sets Philip apart is his holistic approach to the mental well being. And he's not just about treating symptoms, but helping clients achieve the lasting change. So, he's also passionate about breaking down the stigma around mental health and equipping people with the practical, actionable tools they can use in their daily lives. So get comfortable because this conversation is about to challenge the way you think about struggle and teach you how to embrace the growth on a whole new level. So, welcome to the show, Philip.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the great intro.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Philip, like to start with, I mean, if you can share about the concept of struggle itself. I mean, in your experience, why do struggles often feel so overwhelming? And what is the first step to turning them into the opportunities for growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well,
Mhm.
struggle is the epitome of the human experience.
Hmm.
Yes, we have a lot of structure when it comes to our society and our industrial
Hmm.
advances, organizations, nations, social practices. That has evolved as we have evolved as Homo sapiens at this point in our evolution. But overall, if we did not have this point in time, we would still be struggling. If I were to put you and drop you off in another part of the world that is not constructed that way, the world will be trying to get at you. You would have to really survive. So it really attests to our ancestors and our evolution before us on how well they got us through to this point. Very resilient, smart, um, passionate, really grinding type of people or animals to get us to this point. But other than that, struggle in and of itself is a part of human evolution. Um, I spoke most of the time about the feelings wheel, which is in the arsenal of a therapist, and it really helps clients identify what feelings they have. And within that feelings wheel, there are six core value feelings that we derive from. And to be more specific about different types of feelings, those core values expands depending on the experience that the individual has. But four out of those six feelings, around 66% of all core feelings, are negative. So, what does that just tell you based on the experience is that it's really hard and you're only doing about 40 to 30 to 40% of the time the ability to even experience positive feelings because 66% of the time or 70% of the time it
Right.
is core negative. And so a lot of people are like, well, I should not be feeling this way. A lot of people say, why do I keep feeling this way? Well, I tell clients to accept that
Hmm.
you're feeling this way, and it's very normal to feel this way. and explain it the same way that I'm explaining to you. So if somebody is struggling in a certain type of area, what I try to do is not get them to go from 0 to 100 about the opposite feeling of where that may apply itself. But I
Yeah.
try to get the client to say, okay, if we're feeling this feeling quite often, then it's probably something that you're needing to change to not feel it as often. You are going to feel it. I'm just trying not to get you to feel it as much. So I'm not trying to get you from zero, let's just say depressed to euphoric. That's not probably going to happen based maybe on biology, personality type, your circumstances, the neurology in your brain. I can't get you to feel euphoric and be this happy-go-lucky, frolic through the fields person. But what I can get you is that maybe there are days in your life where you don't feel depressed. Maybe
Mm.
there are environments where you don't get super sad. Maybe now that we can work through together, trying to improve the feeling of having that feeling to get you to a place of being okay. And if somebody is going from being bedridden, and not even wanting to brush their teeth or not wanting to even eat anything, to
Yeah.
eating crackers or to taking care of themselves and making their bed and brushing their teeth, I see that as an improvement. And hopefully we can continue to build on that because usually when you get the feedback from a struggle and you see improvements, people want to continue to chase not having that feeling. So that's where I come and try to walk with somebody that's going through that struggle. So it is normal to struggle that way. It is at our core, it is in our nature. It
Yeah.
helps defend us, it helps protect us from danger. So it is very normal. So it is okay to identify with that. And then once you are mindful of that, structure and audit yourself in ways to say, how can I experience this less, even though I'm going to experience it?
Wow, that's really awesome. On this, it's one more thing is coming to my mind. Like, if you can share a personal story, or maybe a client experience where someone took their biggest challenge and transformed it into a source of strength. No need to take the name, but if you can share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have dysthymia. I would label myself as having dysthymia, which is a mild to moderate version of depression. It's not major depressive disorder, which is MDD, which is the highest severity of a diagnosis for depression, but I have dysthymia. So I'm really naturally prone to that. And what I have learned and audited with myself, noticing in times of having depression, is mostly when it comes to my romantic life and my experience with experiencing different people that are putting me in really bad situations and making me feel this feeling of just hurt and pain. And with that being said, throughout those times, whether I was in that relationship or whether I eventually had the courage enough to leave, I ended up in being having depressive feelings about that. So there'll be days where I would sleep 16 hours. I would not eat for days. I wouldn't drink water. I wouldn't exercise. I wouldn't socialize with anybody. I would just be in my bed and happy to even be there and then just have this real gloom that I could physically feel coming from my brain. I could feel those chemicals. It sounds weird, but I can feel those chemicals going through my body. And those were struggling times. And so at some point in time, I let it ride. Um, I let the feeling and the experience be validated to say what I went through and how I was being treated. And then after those moments, you start small. So I love exercising. I've been an athlete all my life. So I'm not gonna go back after a period of time and just start being able to lift the same weight that I used to.
Correct.
I don't even dress the same way. So I would start with walks, and I would then start with eating one egg and then two eggs and then drinking 8 ounces of water and then going up to 16 ounces, wash my hair, take care of my skin, reach out to a friend to go socialize. And then eventually I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I know that this is not going to be what it used to be. I also know that I'm rebuilding myself in a type of way. And I know that I'm not going to feel like it. So this is going to be challenging, not hard, because it's not impossible. It is challenging, and it's okay for you to be challenged to get over that hump of a negative experience in order to get your place to being okay. So I know that I'm not going to lift the same weights. I know that I'm not going to feel like doing things. I know I'm probably not going to talk when I go socialize with people, but those are the things that I need to do to get over this hump. And it's going to take energy that I don't have, but I will never have the energy if I stay the same. So that was a personal thing of that. And then eventually, it the more and more you do it, when you go through those periods of time, the quicker you start to realize, okay, this thing works for me. I know how to get back on the train. Now it's only taking maybe a week for me to get back to it. I've been depressed. I'm feeling depressed. I'm going through the motions. Okay, but now I know exactly what I need to do. So when this happens again, hopefully it's not from a bad relationship. But if I go through something similar, I have tools that work for me. I have skills that I've implemented. I know what I personally need to do to get over this. And I know it's going to be challenging. But on the other side of this is just a rocket for you to be able to put yourself in a better position and to not feel like that. So that's what I go through in my body and my life and the cards I've been dealt with. And I know a lot of other people do. But those are the things that I do to try to improve that.
Hmm. Exactly, exactly. Also, like there has been a lot of discussion around breaking the stigma associated with the mental health. So, what do you think is the key to making people more comfortable seeking help, especially when they feel ashamed or judged?
Hmm, it's a really good question. I would say that the old saying that closed mouths do not get fed, I think that's very true. You have a feeling and you have experiences that have negatively impacted you. And even the most helpful people in the world that are passionate, that are empathetic, that have been trained to be able to help you with that, they cannot help you with that unless you say something. You have to speak about it, especially when it comes to this field and this stigma. It's not tangible. It is not something physical. It is not that 1 out of 8 people in the world have all broken their arms, and now we have to worry, and we can see that problem. So because we can see the problem, we know that there is one. No, 1 out of 8 people in the world have a mental health problem. That's a lot of people, and that's a best estimation. So, with that being said, it is intangible. You cannot see it. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to talk about it. You have to mention it. So, even when you come to me or another professional or a friend or a family member or a teacher or a coach or a mentor or the person that you see in your most frequent restaurant that you gotten along with, no matter what, you have to speak about it. Not everybody is going to be open to it, but you have to keep trying because there may be people that are willing to help, but they don't know that you need the help. They don't know what you're struggling with. So, yes, there will be judgment. Again, just like getting through depression, you are not going to maybe get the response that you may be looking for, but you have to push yourself to do it. So maybe the friend you're talking to dismisses it. Maybe the romantic partner is not knowing how to comfort you and how to accept your vulnerability. Maybe your parents, because of the generation before, don't see mental health as a big problem, and it's making you weak, or you're not as strong as they used to be, or everything's a problem for you. No, if it's really like that, you have to keep pushing to find people and opportunities to improve you. Nobody was you, nobody is you, and nobody will ever be you. So capitalize on you wanting to make your life the best you can be. This is your mental health. And nobody else, including myself, is going to value it more than you. But there are people that are wanting to help if you're able to talk about it and say, I need help.
That's amazing. So, also, what advice would you give to someone who is listening, who knows they need help, but they feel somewhere hesitant to take that first step?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Audit yourself. That's something that I do with my clients, and that's something that I'm making a part of my therapeutic intervention is audit yourself. In certain areas of your life, you may not be struggling financially, socially, physically, biologically, mentally, spiritually, religiously. In certain other areas, you may not be struggling. So if you were to put yourself in the center and then branch off what those things may look like, and you were to do maybe a scale of 1 to 10 of how well you are managing that area of your life, because all of those things impact you. If in certain areas it's lower than what you expected, then those are the things that you need to attend to. And it makes you say, okay, we don't have to focus on the areas that you're doing well in. I'm happy for you and we're doing well. We don't need to make that a priority. But in this area, I need to address this. It could be unresolved problems with family. It can be you noticing that your romantic and dating life is not going the same way. It can be what you're reacting to instead of responding to in this area in your life. So when clients come to me, I don't know what they want to change. I know that you're in my office. I know that you contacted me, but I don't know what you want to change. But I do know that because you are here, you unconsciously want to change something. So when we audit what it is that you may or may not want to change, because some people know what they want to change, or they may think they know what they want to change, and some people have no clue, but they know that they need help. So we sit down and physically write it out and talk about what they want to change. So I would advise that with any person and any client to really audit themselves and say, okay, I keep noticing a pattern. I keep experiencing these feelings. I keep having these type of thoughts in this type of situation, in this with this maybe type of person, and it is causing me to feel negatively for a prolonged amount of time. Well, you're probably needing to audit yourself to say, what is it that I need to change? So that would be my number one recommendation and advice for people. And usually it's a pattern. Usually there is circumstances that when you really talk about it, or you actually take the time to physically write it out and really look at your life, you're probably going to find a pattern with that. And it's probably your body and mind telling you, hey, you need to address this. And one of the sayings and metaphors that I use is nothing new is under the sun. There have been people that have been through exactly what you're going through and have gotten over that. So, and have found ways to manage and improve themselves. So that should give you hope that if they struggle and have been through it, you can too. And again, nobody is you and will ever be you. So let's try to make your life here, or if you believe it to be after, but at least we know that you're here right now. Let's make that the best that it can be. So look at yourself, be honest with yourself. It is not right or wrong or good or bad or great or poor. It is your experience. It is real. It is can be validated, but if it needs to change, only you can do that for yourself.
Very truly said, I have to say. And also, like, you have spent your career helping others grow. So uh, I'm also curious, like, what's a lesson that you have learned through your work that's had a major impact on your own personal growth?
My own personal growth. Um, Good question. Stay curious. That is my number one advice to up and coming professionals. That is my MO for couples that are arguing and not listening to each other. That is my MO for parents to look at their children. That is the MO for people, even with born mental health problems. Doing that for themselves is staying curious about you, about people, about the possibility that somebody else may know something that you don't. Listening. Like if you really looked at the world and looked at it objectively, listening to people, actually listening is a big thing because you stay curious about what somebody says and then you match that up with how they behave and you observe where those things in your mind make sense of you're saying one thing or doing one thing and it's not aligning. So staying curious is my job as a therapist because you can imagine I have people that are late 40s and 50 years old, and sometimes people that are twice my age. And, what can somebody half their age tell them? It's that I'm curious about that. What you have a lot of life, you have a lot of experience. What are those things like for you? I have people that have severe ADHD, and I have people that have autism on the autism spectrum. What is that like for you to not focus or get mad at yourself or have these real negative interpretations of feelings? I have people that have been through very horrific physical abuse in some type of way towards them. What was that like? I'm not trying to take you back there, but what was that like? Let those things out. And so staying curious. And so some days as a therapist, I'm really on that and really just keep diving into the complexity of this person and maybe creating a space that they've never had before in order to be so vulnerable and not judged about that. I get to be that for somebody. But I also say that there's some days where I feel myself not doing that to the best of what I know I can do. So I have to reset myself and stay curious about something. I don't ask questions of, I try not to ask questions of why. Because when we ask the question of why, it naturally makes us defensive, even the most minuscule things. So in therapy, is a lot of what questions and how questions. And if you really try to challenge yourself to have a conversation without asking the question of why, you'll notice how hard it is to really try to gain another person's experience and perspective because you probably never taken time with that to take yourself out of that and look at that person objectively. But if you focus on anybody and your own life, asking the questions of what and how, without the judgment and anxiety and defensiveness of why, you'll be able to unlock a lot of things. So that has been my personal growth that when I feel myself not staying as curious as I need to be, that is where I need to reset and do that. So that is the number one thing that a 6-year educational career has shown me is to stay curious.
Understood. Understood. Lovely. Great. So, Philip, this conversation has been incredible. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us today. And you have shown us that our struggles don't define us, but how we respond to them does. So, uh, dear listeners, if anyone of you is listening, remember that growth isn't about being perfect, but it's all about showing up day by day and embracing the progress. So, as always, if you have enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with someone who needs, and leave us a review definitely, because together we are creating a community of growth and healing. So, until next time, take care of your mind and your life. Thank you so much.